Nintendo Switch, buy or pass? Hey, it's Chris, and this is my initial review of the Nintendo Switch, but I'll probably do a follow-up at some point. Today I'm going to cover the console itself, including some interesting quirks that I've noticed, all of the controllers, and the launch games, including the Breath of the Wild Special Edition. And if you missed my Nintendo Switch cartridge taste test, make sure to go check that out as soon as you're done watching this video. Also, before I get any further, I always get lots of questions from people about the stuff that they see on the set, like the wall tiles, the swinging sticks, and the light cube, so everything that's buyable I'll have linked down in the description. Now, right off the bat, I can tell you that I really like the overall Switch experience. And I've been having a lot of fun ever since launch day when I was first in line at the local Target. Before I get to some of the interesting quirks, why don't I tell you about some of the things that I really like about the Switch to kick things off. It's genuinely awesome that you can get a seamless TV or handheld gaming experience with one device. Now, the TV mode isn't as good as an Xbox or PlayStation in terms of graphics or power, and it won't take full advantage of your fancy 4K HDR TV. But I think you'd be surprised at how little graphics can matter when a game is as good as Breath of the Wild. More on that in a little bit. The mobile mode is more enjoyable than gaming on a phone or a tablet too, so Nintendo did somehow manage to hit that really narrow sweet spot with this console. I actually think that if the Switch had been one or the other, TV or mobile, then it might have had the potential to be a flop. It's the very fact that you can go big or small that makes this so appealing. The Switch hardware feels very high quality to me, and it's also nice and light. I love the little details like a dedicated screenshot button, the fact that there's room to charge the Pro controller on the back of the hub, and that there's no web browser. That's right, there's no web browser. This thing is solely dedicated to gaming. But the Switch does have some quirks. I started to wonder if the Switch got its name because it switches inputs on your TV so often. On my Samsung KS8000, anytime I dock the Switch, it'll change inputs, which is annoying if somebody's trying to watch something. And even if it's just sitting there charging, it'll switch inputs to the Nintendo Switch's input, which is kind of a pain. Also, depending on what you've got, the Switch isn't easy to stash away in your TV console. Unlike the Xbox One S, for instance, it won't fit in a slim drawer because it's too tall when it's docked. The screen on the Switch is also really reflective, and it can be hard to see what's happening in dark areas of games, like when it's nighttime in Zelda. And the battery life is so-so. It's definitely usable, but I'm always surprised and kind of disappointed at how quickly it ends up draining. So don't plan on playing it for more than a couple of hours before you need to get it charged. One final and kind of funny quirk, the Switch will actually charge your MacBook Pro like an external battery pack if you hook it up using a USB-C to USB-C cable. More on that in a later video. So let's talk about the controllers. I definitely, absolutely, without a doubt, prefer using the Pro controller whenever possible. Trust me, there's a reason why Nintendo dubbed it the Pro. It just works better for games like Breath of the Wild. I do wish the Pro controller had some added grip though, like the Xbox One S controller. It almost looks like it does, but it's actually completely smooth. So in order, I prefer to use the Pro controller, then the Joy-Con controllers attached, then the Joy-Con controllers detached, and then, and only then, the Joy-Con charging power grip. The power grip is actually pretty awful for me. It's so cramped and small, it's basically unusable for an adult. So I kind of hate it, which is too bad because it is useful in that it can charge the Joy-Cons while you're still playing. And speaking of the Joy-Cons, even though the buttons are kind of small, they're still pretty easy to press. And those control sticks are nice and grippy. And now we get to the games. The selection of games at launch is truly awful. For early buyers, it's probably the worst thing about the Switch. The only game really worth playing at launch is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. But before I get to that, I also picked up Bomberman and 1-2 Switch. And I have to say that Bomberman is not very fun. Definitely not worth $50. In fact, I doubt that people would pay $1 for this game if it were in the App Store on your phone. 1-2 Switch can be fun if you have a big group of people because it's one of those games that's more fun to watch than to actually play. Okay, so on to the main attraction, the new Zelda game. I picked up the special edition of Breath of the Wild, which came with the game, obviously, a case for the Switch, a soundtrack on a CD, a poster, and a collectible coin, all for $100. If you're really into Zelda or you want a case for your Switch, it might be worth it. Otherwise, I'd probably say save your money and go with the regular game. The gameplay in this version of Zelda is pretty incredible despite the surprisingly pixelated look. On a 4K TV, Link looks pretty jaggy, but it is forgivable as you get immersed into the story. This is a huge open world game, absolutely huge. The map just keeps expanding and you can literally travel anywhere that you can see. I found that the puzzles in the game aren't too hard to solve, which I kinda like, and the entire game is actually pretty casual. In short, this iteration of Zelda is so good because there's so much variety. You can walk, you can ride a horse, you can glide, you can swim, you can fight, you can talk, you can even cook. Also, you have to be pretty strategic about things. You can do almost anything, but that doesn't mean that you should until you're properly equipped. And this is pretty cool. The game mechanics include things like fluctuating temperature and fluctuating sound, so the gameplay changes based on the in-game temperature or how loud or quiet your character gets. But I guess for me, Breath of the Wild is so fun because it'll keep you entertained for so long. So, Nintendo Switch, buy or pass? I think if you're watching this video, then the Nintendo Switch is absolutely going to be worth buying, but the only question is, when? If you buy it right now, then it's kind of like paying $350 to $470 for one great game, Zelda. And I actually ended up paying $532.71 for everything that you see here. But that will change over time as more games get released, and I'm personally looking forward to Super Mario Odyssey and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, along with Splatoon 2 and Skyrim, among others. So if you're just a Nintendo fan, if you have kids, or if you're looking for a mobile gaming platform, then I think the Switch is a definite buy. But if Nintendo's flagship gaming titles don't appeal to you, or if one great game at launch isn't really enough, or if you just really crave those high-end graphics, then the Switch might be a pass for you. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging out in the comments for the next couple of days, and I'd also love to hear if you plan on buying the Switch or if you got one already and why, so leave me a comment on that down below. Also, don't forget to follow @DailyTekk, spelled Daily, T-E-K-K, on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.